Today's shiur begins 2 lines from the bottom of Daf Pei Tes Amud Aleph. You'll notice there is a new Mishnah. We would like to point out at this point that today's shiur will, Amir Hashem, continue till Daf Tzadi Omid Beis, so that even though we're in the Daf Yomi context, realize that the shiur of Daf Tzadi will begin, as we say, on Daf Tzadi Omid Beis. The topic, which we've indicated on the side under our nosei, our topic heading, Tesha Shenidrehen Kayomin. There are 9 women that are featured in this Mishnah whose vows are not undone by father or husband. We will see later in the Gemara, the amount of Gemara dedicated to this Mishnah is quite brief, that these 9 women can actually be categorized into 3 general categories. The cases featured in the Mishnah are explained by the Meforshim, and we have a little chart at the bottom of our mark page which features a listing of the cases, the women, and the order of events, all based on the Tosfos commentary. So the Mishnah says, Tesha Ne'oros Nidreim Kayomin, and the Meforshim point out that the word Ne'oros is called Lav Dafka. Generally speaking, a Na'ara is a woman between age 12 and 12 and a half, but that's not the case over here. It refers to women. So there are 9 women whose Nidreim Kayomin means that there is no husband or father annulment of the vow. Bogeres v'hi yisoima. That's number 1. Number 2, Nara v'hi yisoma. Nara bogeres v'hi yisoma. Just to get a little feel of this, if you look at the chart at the bottom, as we said, which is taken from the Tosfos commentary, number 1, bogeres v'hi yisoma, is a situation where the girl is over 12 and a half, her father died, and she vowed. So given those circumstances, that kind of vow cannot be undone in the hafara sense. Hafara is a term that we use in the context of a father or a husband. Of course, if the girl presents her vow to a Talmud Chacham, that already is a different story. A Talmud Chacham to annul the vow, Sheilas Chacham, or HaTorah as it's often referred to. But here we're talking about father/husband and their ability or lack thereof, in this particular case, inability to mefer the vows. Number 2, which we read already, you can see on the chart the number 2 at the bottom of the page. It is a bogeres, a girl over 12 and a half, that vowed, and then her father died. It is also noted in the Meforshim that one is not to try to find, not to expect to find a chidush, something unusual. All of these cases are basically self-understood, and what the Mishnah is doing is simply listing all kinds of circumstances or combinations of events of women whose vows will stick. Let's continue then in the Mishnah. We continue at the top of Omid Beis. The 3rd example, Nara Shelo Bogra V'hi Yasoma. And as the Tosfos explains, this is a girl who is between 12 and a half. She vowed, and then her father died. Case number 4 is Bogeres Umeis Avia. And that's the situation here is that she was a Na'ara. She vowed, then went over 12 and a half years of age, and then her father died. Number 5, Na'ara Bogeres Umeis Avia. And what happened here? She was a Na'ara and vowed. Her father died, and then she went over 12 and a half. So at this point, of course, there is no hafara. Number 6, Nara Shelo Bogra Umeis Aviha. This is a case of a bogeres that vowed. Her father did not die, but she's not under his jurisdiction anymore. Number 7, Nara Shemei Sovia Umi Shemei Sovia Bogra. A case of a Nara that vowed, and then she became a Bogeres. Number 8, Bogeres V'Ovia Kayam. It is noteworthy that the girsa that we have in the Tosfos is not exactly the same as the girsa that we have in our Mishnah text. But since we have the Mishnah text in front of us, we'll continue with what we have. Number 7, Nara Shemeis Avia U'Mishemeis Avia Bogra. Number 8, Bogeres V'Avia Kayam. And finally, number 9, Nara Bogeres V'Avia Kayam. Rabbi Yehuda adds, Av Hamasi Bito Haktana V'Nis Almana Oinis Garsha, a father who married off his daughter, a minor, which is a right that the Torah accords to a father, and the daughter, became an almona, a widow, or she was divorced, v'chazra etzlo, and then returned to her father's house, adayan hi nara, and she might very well be still of a nara age. However, since she left her father's domain, the father, can no longer annul her vows. Omar Rav Yehuda, Omar Rav, Zu Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. The Mishnah that enumerates 9 women whose vows stick is in accordance with Rabbi Yehuda. Avol Chachomim Omrim Sholosh Naros Nidrehem Kayomim. The Chachomim present the same information but in 3 general categories, so that you don't necessarily have a fundamental point of controversy, but rather it's a question of how to categorize. And the Ran points out that the 3 general categories of the Chachamim include the 9 specific cases of the Mishnah. Rabbi Yehuda only enumerated the 9 individuals to sharpen the students. So the Gemara continues. The Chachomim say there are 3. Avol Chachomim Omrim Sholosh Naros Nidrehem Kayomin. 3 general categories of women whose vows will stand. Bogeres, V'Yasoima B'Chaye Ho'av. The Mishnah. On the side, we have a topic heading, and we indicate that this topic lasts till Daf Tzadi Omid Beis. Im Shayich Lohofer Neder Shehuder Al Tnai Vadayin Lochal HaNeder. Is it possible to annul a vow that was made on condition, and as a result of the vow being conditional, you can have a situation where the condition hasn't been met yet, hence the vow hasn't taken effect yet? Is it subject to annulment? Or possibly only a vow that has actually gone into effect is something that can be annulled. This we'll see as we go on, and the Gemara is a machloikes tanoim between Rabbi Yonasan and the Chachamim. The Mishnah. Koinam she'eni nehene la'aba ulovicha im oisa ani alpicha. A woman vows, stating a condition, a vow that she will not provide benefit to her father or to his father, her husband's father, if she does anything beneficial for her husband. Another vow, she'eni nehenes loch. She vows not to benefit from her husband, or alternatively, she shall not provide any benefit to her husband. Im oise ani al pi abo v'al pi avicha. If I do anything for father, for my father, or for your father. Harei ze yofer. This vow can be annulled. The Rashi explains, Koinim she'eni oise la'abo ulovicha, klomar she'ani noisein lahem ye'aleim koinam. That anything that I do for them shall be prohibited to them. So she's forswearing any benefit to the individuals mentioned. The Gemara continues with a brisa in which you'll see the second opinion, two Tanaic opinions on this. She'eni nehenes la'abo lovicha. She vows not to provide any benefit to her father or to his father. Im ani oise lepicha. If I do anything for you, if I benefit you. Rabbi Yonasan oimer lo yofer. As things are right now, it's not subject to hafara because the vow hasn't gone into action. V'chachamim yofer, and the chachamim say it can be annulled, even though it hasn't gone into effect yet, because she just simply stated it with the condition, and that's it. Upon hearing that, according to the chachamim, the husband can annul it. Netula ani min hayudim im mishamashtech. Rabbi Yonasan omer lo yofer, v'chachamim omrim yofer. Now we've seen this expression before, netula ani min hayudim. Literally, it means that she is removed from the Jewish people if she has intimacy, or if she serves her husband, if she has intimacy with her husband. So Rabbi Yonasan is consistent in this second example. Look, the vow hasn't gone into effect yet, so there's no basis yet for annulment, and the Chachamim disagree. Hahu Gavra the Itzar Hanoso the Almo Olei. There was a man that vowed not to benefit from the world. Inosiv Itza Kilo Tanina Hilchasa. If he were to get married before he learned, and according to the Tosfos, before he learned all of the Shas, so that he vowed, stating or stipulating the vow upon his having completed a significant amount of Torah learning, and he said that he will not marry a woman in other words, if he vowed that if he should marry a woman before he completes this significant amount of Torah learning, then he will not be able to benefit from the world. Rohit begapo v'tuvlaya v'lo amsi lemisna. Without translating this literally, it means he made a lot of efforts to be successful in his learning, and he was simply he didn't meet his goals. So now he's in a bind. According to his vow, he won't be able to get married, and yet he made a lot of efforts in trying to be successful in his Torah learning and wasn't successful at that. For a more literal translation, we can use one of the several meforshim, and you'll see different translations if you look in the different meforshim. But if you look at Rashi, Royit begapo v'tuvlaya, gapo kori sulam shalom b'la ilon. Gapo, according to Rashi, is a ladder that you would ascend in order to reach the heights of a tree. Tuvlaya chevel sheton bedekel moshe lehem lemata anofim sheb'map tmorim. And tuvlaya is a reference to a rope that people would use to draw branches of a palm tree in order to access the dates. This is an analogy. It's an example. The analogy is to one who runs up and down in his study of Torah and is unsuccessful. So now, what's this person to do? Let's continue in the Gemara. Also, Rav Acha bar Rav Huna v'Shabshei. Rav Acha comes along, and Shabshei, the Loshen you see in the Ran, Hitehu. He tricked him. Hitehu means he caused him to err. In other words, and we'll see what that means. If we look in the Ran at the bottom, V'Shabshei Hitehu loymar shelo yehei nesar la'achar mikein. He says, listen, don't worry, you won't be prohibited from benefiting from the world if you get married right now. And right now meaning even if you haven't met the goals you set out in your initial vow, don't worry, you won't be subject to the vow. Well, what did he want to happen here? He wanted to see this fellow get married. At the point he gets married, the prohibition of the vow sets in. What was the vow? If he gets married before completing his Torah goals, so then he will now be prohibited to benefit from the world. So the prohibited benefit now sets in. So as the Gemara says, that Rav Acha confounded him, or he tricked him, had him get married. The tricking is trying to comfort the guy by saying, don't worry, you're not going to be bound by the vow. And the guy went ahead and got married. Visharke Tina, Rashi at the top line says, Sharke Tina toch pona betit, he covered his face with clay, Kadesh lo yakireu Rav Chisda ki lohoy adam echad shenodar shelo yisaish kadei shiati loy. According to Rashi, Rav Acha created a disguise for this guy to go to Rav Chisda to have the vow rescinded. And why the disguise? Because if the fellow would have approached Rav Chisda without the disguise, Rav Chisda might have recognized him and not have released him from the vow. The Ran has a different take on it. Rav Acha soiled the man, showing that this guy really needs the people to help him, to wash his clothing, to clean him up. So we see the story continues. V'asye lekamei Rav Chisda. This fellow with the vow, who's now either according to Rashi with the disguise, or he soiled according to the Ran, approaches Rav Chisda to have his vow rescinded. Omar Rava. Notice a triangle appears in our marked Gemaras. On the side we have written under the Nosei Mivneh heading. The triangle appears. Gimel Deos, we'll see in this piece of Gemara, notice, scan the page, and you see going down to the bottom, 3 triangles. Im machloikis Rav Nosson v'chachomim kayim gam b'kesher sheilu l'chacham. Does the machlokis that we saw before between the Tanoim, Rav Nosson and the Rabbi Nosson and the Chachomim, who spoke about the dinim of hafora, of a father or husband being able to annul his wife's vows, does their machlokes apply also with she'ela l'chacham? Rak be'inyan haforas baal, or maybe their machlokes was limited to the husband annulling a wife's vow. And the point is, a vow that was made conditionally, do you have to wait for the vow to kick in? In other words, you have to meet the condition before the chacham, in this case, before he can annul the vow. So Rava says, Omar Rava, man chacham lemevet kiha milsa, who is so wise, so sharp to do what he did? Ilav de Rav Acha bar Rav Huna. If it was not Rav Acha, de Gavra Rabahu. Rav Acha is a great man. The Kosovar, who is of the opinion, the Chihechi de Pligi Rabbonim Rav Nosson Bahafora, just like the Tanea controversy regarding conditional vows appeared in the case of Hafora, Hochi Nami Pligi B'Sheila. So too, they argue regarding a she'ela to a chacham, to approaching a chacham. In this case, we saw the approach to Rav Chisda to have the vow rescinded. And what did Rav Acha then do? He created a situation where all opinions, including Rabbi Nosson, would agree that the vow can now be undone. The Rosh points out, and that Rav Acha paskins like Rabbi Nosson, namely that the vow could not have been undone unless the stated condition was met, hence activating the prohibition of the vow. Rav Popi, We should point out, by the way, that you see we've used some markings, a double underline highlighting the words hafora and she'ela, and a squiggle underline highlighting the expressions machlokas or pligi, or the expression divrei hakoil. What do we want to accomplish over here? So we want to see clearly each Amoraic opinion, what do they hold with regard to the circumstances of the Machloikis Tanoim. So Rava says that the Machloikis Tanoim between the Chachomim and Reb Nosson applies not only to Hafora, but to She'ela as well, She'ela to a Chacham. Notice Rav Papi, and the way we've marked the Gemara without going on in the text yet, Rav Papi points out the Machlokis is in the case of Hafora, as was stated, but when it comes to She'ela, there is agreement that a Chacham cannot be Matir a Neder unless the conditions activating the Neder are Chal. So, according to Rav Papi, the fellow who had vowed before would have had to have married the woman in order for the vow to be rescinded, because otherwise the Chacham could not have been matirit. So Rav Papi says, Rav Papi Omer Machloikis behafora. To Rav Nosson Sover Ein Habal Mefer Elim Ken Chal Neder. The husband cannot undo a vow unless the prohibition of the vow sets in, is activated. Dichtiv. The Pasuk says, V'chofra halavona. Now, how you see from this, that particular point, so Rashi elaborates on that. But for our purposes, just realize that from this Pasuk, without getting into the explanation of the Pasuk, Rabbi Nosson feels that unless the vow and the prohibition of the vow is activated, the Chacham has nothing to do. That is the husband. The husband has nothing to do. He can't annul it. For Rabbanan Savri, Baal Mefer Afal Pi Shelo Chal Neder, a husband can undo a vow even if the effects of the vow haven't yet kicked in. Dichtiv Mefer Machshavoi Sarumim. The word Mefer, like Hafora, even if it's only in the Machshava stage, even if it's only in the potential, in the thought stage, namely, it hasn't yet taken effect. Avol b'she'ela divrei hakoil ein chacham matir klum elim kein chal neder. When it comes to approaching a sage for annulment of vow, he cannot annul something that hasn't yet taken effect. Dichtiv lo yachel devoro. And here the Rashi explains that if something is only in a dibur stage, meaning it's only in a speech stage, it's not in an actual stage, it hasn't been activated yet, so the Chacham cannot be matir, he can't be mechil it, he can't undo it, he can't annul it. We pointed out earlier that there's a third Amoraic opinion, and you can just skip down to the third triangle. Ravina has a different version of Rav Papi. Technically speaking, for marking purists, someone might argue that we should have marked the Gemara with 2 aleph and 2 bays, and we certainly can accept that as an option as well. But there is this third approach that the Machlokes Tanoim was in Hafar. And by the way, that's in all 3 cases. There is all the Amorim agree that the Machlokes exists by Hafar. The only question is, what do we say with regard to She'ela? So that here you have a third opinion, and that is that with regard to She'ela, Ravina will tell us, everyone agrees, a Chacham is able to be matir the neder, to annul the vow, even if it has not yet been activated. But in the meantime, we have Rav Papi's opinion, and you notice we have a geometric form, a trapezoid, highlighting the expression Leimo Messiah Le. This is going to repeat itself, and on the side of the Gemara, you can see we've explained it these are nisyonos, these are attempts l'sayel Rav Papi the b'she'ela the v'akol inumatir ad shiyochla neder. These are going to be two attempts to support Rav Papi that said, according to everybody, even according to the Chachamim, not just Reb Nosson, but even according to the Chachamim, a vow cannot be undone by a Chacham unless the vow has taken effect. In other words, the conditions activating the vow have already been met. So here we go with a question. Notice we have a long question marking. Lema Misayeh Alei. Let us support Rav Papi that said that when it comes to Sheila Chacham, everyone agrees that the Chacham cannot be matir unless the neder has taken effect. So we have a vow, Koinim Sheni Nene Leploni, Ulami She'eshal Alav. Person vows not to benefit so-and-so, and likewise not to benefit the one that I seek out for the vow annulment. Nishal al Rishon v'achar kach nishal al Hasheni. According to this source, then if we take it literally, the vow, the first vow, is annulled, is sought out for annulment. A Chacham is approached for the first vow, and by doing that, you're activating the second vow, and hence you are shoyel, you are going to seek the Chacham's heter for the first one, and then the Chacham's heter for the second one. Ve'i amris, if you were to think that nishal afal pi shalochal neder, that you can seek a Chacham's annulment even without the neder being activated, then why the insistence on the order? Iboy al hai nitshel bereisha, iboy al hai nitshel bereisha. Then it would be the option of the individual to seek annulment for either one first. The Gemara says this source is simply inconclusive because umi yoda I hai kamo I hai basra. Who says, in looking at this source, which one is the first one that is being annulled, and which one is the second one that's being annulled? It's true that there were two vows stated, but when the source says that you annul the Rishon and then annul the Sheni, it doesn't necessarily mean the first one stated in the source and the second one stated. Let us glance at the Rosh commentary at the very bottom of the Rosh column. He says, Mi yoda hei kamo v'hei basra. Mi yuchal leida miloshon habraisa. Who can know from the language of this source, im, and we continue in the Rosh on the Omid Beis, im ploni rishon, im hachacham rishon, tona osalash minen. Can you see from this particular source, is the chacham the first one? The shtei hatoros tzorich yishal al eize mehen sheyirtzeh via rishon v'achar kach yishal al hasheni. So as the Rosh says, from the language of the Brisa, you can't necessarily know if the ploni is the rishon or the chacham is the rishon. The Tana is coming to tell us the shtei hatoros tzorich. All the Tana is revealing to us is that you need to have two annulments. V'yishal eizimem sheyirtzeh v'yeh rishon v'achar kach yishal al hasheni, and you will seek annulment for either one, first one and then the other. And the Rosh adds that another dechia could have been, namely, if you want to take the source in the literal way, that this source is really authored by Rabbi Nosson, who is insistent in activation of vow, and it's not a support to Rav Papi, who claimed everyone agrees that you need activation of vow for Hatoras Chacham. We continue in the Gemara, Elo, Lemo Misayale. Rather, let us try to support Rav Papi from the following. Kainim she'eni nehene leploini. A person vows not to grant benefit to so-and-so. Hareini Nazir l'ch'eshal olof. And he declares himself to become a Nazir when he seeks annulment of the vow. Nishal al nidro. So the procedure that is to be followed here is he seeks annulment of his vow. What happens at that point? So then the Nazirus gets started. V'achar kach nishal al nizro. And then he can seek annulment of the Nazirus. Why? Because only at that point has the Nazirus been activated. Ve'i amris nishal afal pi shelo chal nidro. If it were so that a person could seek annulment even without the vow being activated, I boy al nidro itshel bereisha, I boy al nizro itshel bereisha, then it wouldn't be important which one he seeks annulment for first. He could seek annulment for the neder first, or he could seek annulment for the nazirus first. Yet the source doesn't say that. The source is by stating it as it is. The achar kach nishal al nisro. There, it's very clear that there is an order as specified by the initial vow. So, what do we see from here? A support to Rav Papi that everyone agrees that you have to activate the vow in order for annulment to be issued. The Gemara rejects this and says, Rabbi Nosson he. This source is not according to everybody, it's Rabbi Nosson's opinion. And hence, Rav Papi doesn't have support from here. Rabbi Papi claimed everyone would agree that a chacham is not matir until the vow is activated. Omar Ravina, Omar li mreimar, Hachi Omar avuch mishmei de Rav Papi. So Ravina tells us that the following was said in the name of Rav Papi: Machloikis b'hafara aval b'sheila divrei hakol mefer v'afal pi shelo chal neder. When it comes to Sheilas Chacham, everyone will agree, namely even Rabbi Nosson will agree, that annulment can be made even without the vow being activated. Dichtiv lo yachel devoro, and the Gemara continues to the top of Amud Beis, lemeimra de lo havi bei maisa. And we take a look at the Ran commentary on the first, on Daf Tzadi Amud Aleph, on the first of the widest lines, Dichtiv lo yachel dvoro lemeimra, to suggest the lo havi bei maisa, that we're at a stage when the Haftorah is done. This pasuk, by the way, lo yachel dvoro, is a pasuk that serves as a source for the issue of a chacham, a sage, being matir, annulling vows. And the way it's darshaned over here is that it says lo yachel dvoro, there is no maisa de dvoro, dover bialmo mashma, mere thought or speech, velo chalos haneder, and that the neder itself hasn't taken effect. And the pasuk is telling us that you cannot undo your own vow, but a chacham is able to undo the vow, even though it's only at the dibur stage, it's only at the speech stage, not having actually been activated. You can of course see a similar explanation in the Tosfos as well. At this point, we're at the top line of Amud Beis, and on the side of the Gemara, you can see we've highlighted with the house marking the word Meisvei, Kushios al Ravina. We're going to present two sources, and they're going to be very familiar. These sources are Oisim Mekar Shehuvu Ba'amid Aleph, Kisur of Papi, the very sources that we thought would support Rav Papi, the sources that had indicated at first glance that you need to activate the vow in order for a chacham to annul it. They're brought here as huvu kan kikushya al Ravina. They're brought as kushyos on Ravina's approach, who claimed that everyone would agree that you don't need to have the vow activated. The Gemara, Meisvei. Koinim sheni nene leploni ulamisha nishal olav. As we saw before, a person vowed not to benefit so-and-so, and the one that he seeks annulment through. Nishal al rishon v'achakach nishal al hasheni. And as we understood earlier, there seems to be an order over here, so that in order to seek annulment for the second vow, the prohibition represented therein had to have been activated beforehand. Amai, if Ravina is correct that Heter Chocham operates immediately, Iboy al Hai Nitchel Bereisha, V'iboy al Hai Nitchel Bereisha, then you could have sought out Heter on either this one first or on that one first. So why does the source seem to suggest that it's not an option which one you seek out first? Well, seek annulment for first. The Gemara answers, Mika Yodea Hey Rishon V'Hei Sheni. From the language of the source, do you really know which one, when the source says Nishal al Rishon, that is necessarily a reference to the first vow? Not so. And as we saw earlier, it could very well be that all the source is telling us is that there are two vows, and you in fact can seek annulment for the second stated one first, because you don't need to activate the prohibition in order for Chocham annulment to take place. Meisvei. And here we have a source that we won't be able to wiggle out of so quickly. The same sources we saw before. Meisvei Kainim Sheini Nene. Person vows that he will not benefit. The Hareini Nazir Lichsheshal Olov. And when he does seek out annulment from that first vow, then he will become a Nazir. How is he to proceed? Nishal al Nidro v'achakach nishal al Nizro. He is to seek out annulment for the first vow, and at that point the Nazirus is activated, and then v'achakach nishal Nizro, and then he can seek out annulment for the Nazirus. Now, the Gemara continues, V'amai, if Ravina is correct that a Chocham can be matir immediately, then Iboy al Nitro Nitchel Bereisha, Iboy al Nizro Nitchel Bereisha. He could have been shoyel first on the Nazirus. It's true that the Nazirus would not have been activated at that point, but yet the source doesn't give us that option. It says you have to first shoyel on the first vow in order to activate the Nazirus, and then you can seek annulment for the Nazirus. Oh, so that's contrary to Ravina. Tiyufta. So here we have a refutation from a Tanaic source on Ravina's approach. And we glance at Rashi, Nishal al Nidro, V'amris the Nishal l'chocham l'divrei hakoaf agav the lo chal haneder. If you were going to take Ravina's approach, that everyone agrees that a chocham can annul without the vow actually being activated, Halmoni, then this source is the lo Reb Nosson v'lo Chachamim. Wouldn't be like either Reb Nosson nor the Chachamim. Would have a source left without an author. So it shows the weakness in Ravina's analysis, and as the Gemara ends off with a tiyufta, a refutation of Ravina's presentation. With that, we conclude our shiur for today.